We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's.
Did the CIA write Wind of Change by the Scorpions?
As humans busied themselves about the various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied.
Dr. Loeb, what percentage chance do you give it that you have indeed uncovered extraterrestrial or non-human technology?
With infinite complacence, people went about their affairs, yet across an immense ethereal gulf, intellects vast and unsympathetic drew their plans against us.
Prior to your abduction, did you believe in UFOs or any sort of alien life form?
All things unexplained.
So some of that, I think, sir, we'll save for closed session.
I just love that intro. It's just so classic. Cajun man. We owe him royalties or something, I'm sure. All right. Hello, everyone, all of our unexplained ones out there. I'm CJ Derringer, joined with my co-host tonight, Dr. Tim Mounts. And we also have a very special guest this evening, or it might be daytime when you're listening. You can't see him, but you will be able to hear him. We have Tom Medlin joining us on the show tonight. And we do have a very, very exciting night planned for you. We've had so much going on in the world of all things unexplained, and Tom Medlin is the man that we needed to get down to business here. So thank you so much for joining us. Before we dive into the show, I just wanted to throw it out there. Please do follow us on social media, whether you're on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, or I'm sure there's 1,000 others that I don't know because I'm just a boring mom these days. But find us, follow us, go ahead and follow us wherever you get your podcasts as well. Subscribe, give us a like, leave us a comment. Additionally, we depend on listener support like you guys. We appreciate any support that you can send our way. So we're going to dive right in. Like I said, we've got a big show for you. Tom Medlin is our guest. And while the rest of you were watching the Super Bowl a few weekends ago, we were having a Super Bowl of our own in terms of unidentified aerial phenomena. So while you were cheering on Patrick Mahomes, the next day, everybody was reaching out to Tom Medlin, trying to get his insight into what is going on in the world of ufology, as we call it here. So he is the host of a podcast called Amateur Radio Roundtable, which we had the pleasure of joining last night. It was lovely. Everybody check it out. It's a great group of people, and they do a live video feed every Tuesday night on w5kub.com, and that's at 8 p.m. Central Time. And let me tell you, it's worth tuning in just to see all of the gadgets that Tom and all of his co-hosts have sitting behind them as well. They are ham radio. I think they say amateurs, but I'm pretty sure they're experts, and really, really good stuff over there. So thanks again for having us. And thank you, Tom, for joining us on our show this evening. So welcome, Tom.
Wow, it sounds like you have a lot of people there. Thank you. Thank you for having us on the show.
Tom's joining us by phone, by the way.
Yes, joining us by
I'm
phone.
on a phone. We had a video. We were on video last night with you guys, and I think that the reason we are not able to do video tonight, you guys have us blocked somehow because you found out I have a face for radio. For TV, I have a face for radio. So yeah. Well, so anyway, hey, thank you so much for having us on here. Man, I could talk to you guys for like 3 days on this subject and still not cover it all. So it's going to be jam-packed tonight. I'll try to answer your questions. Let me tell you a little about me real quick.
Yes, please do.
I'm retired. I'm a electronics engineer, and let's see, a senior member of the Institute for Electrical and Electronic Engineers. Been a ham, extra class ham now for about 59 years, and I've always been in the business of trying to design and build equipment and new things, and I got into the Pico balloon hobby here 4 or 5 years ago, and it's been really exciting. And we've made some great improvements to how it was back then to how it is today.
Wonderful. Well, and the ballooning
Yeah.
is how we got in touch with you. And tell us, where are you located, Tom?
I am in Collierville, Tennessee. That's just outside of Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes. Okay. So not terribly far away from us in terms of, this side of the country. And you said you just had a storm blow through there, which is why I feel like we had gorgeous weather here today, which you wouldn't be able to tell because I'm wearing a turtleneck. I don't know why. It was very hot, and it's going to be hot tomorrow. But most of the country is like under snow warnings and blizzard warnings, right? I mean, people are getting pounded with with snow today, which is crazy. But we are certainly glad that you are here to join us. And we have so many things we want to cover. We definitely want to go into your podcast a little bit more. And then we've got some technical questions about these balloons that you have been building, as well as some listener questions and comments. So those of you that are joining us, if you have questions, please do type them in. We might not get to them right away, but we do have a section dedicated at the end of the show where we want to dive into some of your questions, because you probably have lots of things that we haven't even thought of before. And just a little teaser for what Tom is going to get into. We've done lots of podcasts in the past few weeks about these balloons that have been shot down by F-22s. It started with the Chinese spy balloon, as we've been calling it. And then after that, there were 3 more that were shot down. And it came out that one of the balloons was actually potentially belonging to a Northern Illinois hobbyist club. They call themselves the Bottle Cap Balloon Brigade, if I'm not mistaken. And Tom, you built something that was part in that balloon, correct? That was eventually shot down.
After talking with them more, I realized they did not fly one of the little trackers that we make. They actually had a different one that they built up. But we know the people. We've worked with them and tried to help them get on their feet. It's a little difficult when you try to send a balloon around the world. The first balloon usually doesn't make it, and the second usually doesn't make it, and you got to keep fine-tuning things, and you'll eventually make it. 3 years ago, you had to try 10 times before you get one around the world. Now, we can just about guarantee it will go around the world the first time. I mean, we've got it so fine-tuned. In fact, I've got several balloons up right now. One we're very proud of. It's been up 252 days. It's flying at about 50,000 feet, and it's circled the world about 12 or 13 times now.
It's incredible. Tim, your audio is not coming through. If you said something there, I did not hear it.
Yeah, I just said, wow, offline.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
That was amazing.
Yes, that is amazing. So Tom's he's been doing his podcast for 10 years, and we'll chat with you about that. But you are having a little bit of your 15 minutes of fame, because lots of people have been trying to contact you recently to get your insight on these balloons. In fact, you mentioned last night on your show that CNN had reached out to you, and BBC and several others. And so we are honored to have you here with us tonight on All Things Unexplained. Thank you for giving us your time and joining us here this evening. So we'll just dive right into it. So tell us a little bit more about your podcast, your live show that you do every week.
Well, it's mainly about ham radio or shortwave listening and electronics. We started off 6 years ago, or maybe more, just as a shortwave listener. And a lot of people are shortwave listeners today, where you can take a little simple radio and you can listen to Radio Moscow or Havana, Cuba, or anywhere in the world. And that was really interesting, and I think that's what got us involved in ham radio. We got a license. And it's been a great hobby ever since. I've been active the entire 59 years. Back in the olden days, we used to build all of our equipment. Nowadays, you just buy it, There's been a lot of improvements over 60 years.
So very briefly, for those of us, me, that have no idea what ham radio is, because I know Tim is very obsessed. What is ham radio?
Well, ham radio is actually, it's a hobby, but we're also experimenters, and we're licensed by the Federal Communications Commission. A lot of people confuse ham radio with CB radio. Ham radio is kind of like CB radio on steroids. On CB radio, you're limited to 5 watts. You're really not supposed to talk more than, 12 miles or something like that, if it will go that far. Ham radio, we can run upwards to 2,000 watts. We're licensed. We've got a tremendous amount of bandwidth of different ham radio bands that we can operate on. We can talk around the world. We can pick the band that's working for that part of the world at any given part of the day. Ham radio operators can operate TV. We can send TV pictures back and forth to each other. We have a lot of digital modes. We have sideband. We have AM. We've got Morse code. Now, Morse code is not a requirement anymore for ham radio to get your license, but a lot of us still do it. So, I operate what we call CW or Morse code. Just flying these balloons, we actually build this little micro transmitter. It's about the size of a postage stamp. We put it on this little balloon. This balloon is 32 inches in diameter, very small. And with some calculations and a certain amount of gas measured to the 10th of a gram, and knowing the volume of the balloon and the weight of everything, we can actually place that balloon at a specific altitude, and it will fly there. It will float at that altitude. So if we set it at 49,000 feet, it will fly at 49,000 feet around the world. This is not a weather balloon, and a weather balloon will not work. Weather balloons are latex. They're made to go up high and stretch and pop and come down within a couple hours. We go for the long haul, 252 days, and I hope we have 250 days more.
That's phenomenal. Are you collecting data with these balloons?
Well, the main thing that our balloons send back, and we have public. And let me just give out my website, because if you go to my website to w5kub.com, and if you'll click on balloon in the top menu, you will see a lot of our balloons on that page. You will also see maps of where these balloons are right now, and you can actually see them travel. And you can see some videos of us launching the balloons, building the balloons, gassing them up, and so forth. So there's a lot of information on that website, w5kub.com. Click on balloon, and you'll see more about Pico balloons. As I mentioned, we're licensed by the Federal Communications Commission. We have been working with NOAA. You asked what type data we get. Typically, for just our hobby, we just like to track them. We get things like latitude, longitude that plots on a Google map. We get things like the voltage of the solar panels. We get the altitude. We can get the speed. And we can even see a prediction on there where these balloons are probably going to go over the next 80 hours. So that's typically what we do. Now, NOAA is, you probably have seen their hurricane models on TV. You know, when a hurricane is coming up the coast and you turn the news on, you see all the little dotted lines. There are several different ones. Those are different models. You know, some of them stay together, some of them kind of veer off. Yeah. We get the same model. We get the same model from NOAA for our balloon flights. So we can tell where these balloons are going to go. Yeah, we can tell where they're going to go. And so that's a pretty neat thing. And NOAA is also collecting this data, what little bit of data we have now, and we can improve the data and probably add a few more things. But NOAA is collecting this data and using it to improve their prediction models. So NOAA is involved with us to some degree, and so I feel like we're helping people. So it's scientific. It's a hobby. It's a great thing for like STEM. Your science, technology, and electronics, math. Your STEM programs in school, where kids build this. They watch it, and you just think about it. I mean, I have flown over countries where I didn't even remember studying or where they were, and you really learn geography. As it goes over countries, you learn. You watch it on the maps. Oh, I'm over the city in this country, and so forth as it travels. So, you learn a lot about the jet streams. We can if we get up in the right jet stream, we can fly 150 miles an hour. Or typically some of the slower speeds might be 10 miles an hour. But you can see the weather, jet streams. You look at, and there are websites out there that help us to see the weather at different altitudes. It shows us where the jet streams are and so forth, and we match that up to where we are. And it brings science together. It brings weather together. It brings geography in. It brings electronic skills in. It just brings a whole lot of things in.
Yeah. Well, that was a sales pitch enough for me to go figure out how to send a balloon up and do it with my kids. That's a great idea. Now, do you guys reach out to NOAA? Yeah. Do you reach out to NOAA and connect with them, or do they how does NOAA get connected with your specific balloons?
Well, they have known about us. I'm not sure how they found out about us, but there are more people than just me, in the hobby, and there's other people that have actually had contact with them, and there's been this arrangement or this helping hand, to each other. So. Yeah, we're helping them, and again, the tracking of our balloons is on public websites. And if you look at my page, you'll see the public websites there where you can see where these balloons. And there may be at any given time 50 or 60 of these ham radio Pico balloons floating around the world. And that doesn't even take into account weather balloons. There are 900 locations that launch 2 times a day. Weather balloons. So there's 1,800 weather balloons put in the air every day.
Whoa.
Now I'm talking a lot of balloons up in the air. 1,800 weather balloons a day by the National Weather Service. We probably have 50 or 60 balloons up, And then, hey, think of this. Think of birthdays. 365 million people in the U.S.
Yes.
Everybody has a birthday. You divide that by 365 days. And there's 1 million birthdays per day.
Wow.
And I can tell you, if 10% of those are kids, they're going to let a balloon go. So 1%,
I saw it happen just
1%, yeah, 1% of a million is 100,000. No, 10% of a million is 100,000 balloons. So there's a lot of balloons up there. Now, the Chinese balloon, that was bad. It needed to come down. They were spying. But there's so many other balloons up there that have been flying for 40 years, 50 years, over a 50-year period. And they're heading, I don't think there's been one accident caused by a balloon. It's a big place up there. And we fly. We're flying under FAA 101 exemption, meaning that the FAA has given permission for people, if you meet this criteria on your balloon, you're allowed to fly it without even contacting them. And, there's a few little things you have to do. Our payloads have to be less than 6 pounds to qualify. And our trackers weigh about 7 grams. That's less than the weight of a quarter, maybe a quarter. And in the string that it holds the little tracker, it has to break within 50 pounds. So, those are real simple things. Don't launch it at the end of a runway. There's things like that. So the federal government, the FAA, has and is regulating these things. Now, Congress, they're jumping through hoops there. They think they can fix this thing, and I don't think they're looking through it right now, right? And they're threatening to put all kinds of transponders and stuff on every balloon, but it can't be done. The transponder that they want to put on every balloon costs about $2,000. Plus, it's heavy. Our balloons wouldn't even lift it. So I'm not sure if Congress is going to be able to pass that or not. They need to just step back and talk to the FAA and say, FAA, do you have this under control? Have you done tests? Do you agree you got the right policy? And if so, I think Congress should not try to change or make their own laws regulating these balloons. And I tell you, a kid loses a balloon, they're not going to put a $2,000 transponder on it. And And guess what? If they pass a law here in the U.S., that doesn't affect other countries. And these ham balloons are being launched in every other country. So, and they come around across the United States. So,
That's fascinating, Tom. I tell you what, I as a former CBer, I really have an appreciation for ham radio and a desire to pass the ham test. And they used to tell me that ham radio was the original internet. Back when the internet came out, the whole thing was, wow, you can communicate with anybody instantaneously on the other side of the world. And it was such a novel thing, right? Like, this had never been done before, but wait, it had been done before with ham radio.
Yeah. I've seen them say it was the first social network, before everything else came out,
Yes, exactly. And also, as an avid doomsday prepper, I have to admit that I'm fascinated by the potential for ham radio to come into service for the population should some sort of cataclysmic or emergency situation arise.
Yeah. I mentioned some of the different modes that we can run, like ham TV, sideband, Morse code, digital. I failed to mention a couple others. We can do things like EME, which is Earth, Moon, Earth. We can bounce a signal off the moon and talk to people through that way. We can talk through satellites. We have a number of ham radio satellites that's circling the Earth right now. And even we have radio gear on the International Space Station, where many of the astronauts very quickly get their technician license so they can operate that radio. And we talk to the astronauts in the space station when they go over. A good friend of mine is Colonel Doug Wheelock. He's an astronaut. He has a high-ranking position in NASA now. A couple of years ago, he was the commander of the space station, and I talked to him 30 times 1 month as they went over, and I even talked to him 3 times driving home in my truck. I was actually able to talk to the space station from my truck. Now, when they make a pass over, that's only up there for about 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes, but it's still, there's so many different aspects of ham radio.
That's incredible. Just mind-boggling. I had no idea that you could communicate with the space station. Just amazing. Tom, we have a listener question for you from listener George Winters, a.k.a. Alabama George. He's a top fan of the show. You were talking about weather balloons, and he wants to know, I think this is a great question. Considering we have so much advanced radar now, Doppler 9000, etc., he wants to know, why does NOAA still use weather balloons? What data do they gather from those?
Well, I'm not a meteorologist, so I'm not sure I can give you a scientific answer to that. I do think there are things that the weather balloons can probably pick up and record that maybe radar won't be able to pick up. It's a big sky up there, and the radar today. I think the reason our balloons hadn't been seen in the past, particularly, is because the radar was kind of closed, kind of narrow. And after they saw the big balloon, they said, let's see what else is up there. And they opened the aperture up on their radar, and then they started seeing everything like a bird, which is too much to look at. Let me talk a little about the weather part of this. We just had a ham friend take a couple of our balloons down, and he went to Antarctica. He got a grant, a scientific grant, to go down to Antarctica to the German Niemeyer station in Antarctica. And he launched about 11 Pico balloons from Antarctica. And the study basically was to see how or what type data we might get from these little Pico balloons that, maybe cost, $40, $50 and stay up for days and days and days at a time. How would that compare with launching a big, expensive balloon with helium and, expensive equipment hanging below it and so forth? So a study is going on right now to see what we can do to help maybe reduce some of those weather balloons. I can't tell you all the differences it might seem, but I'm sure there are many differences that sensors in a balloon might could pick up that maybe the weather radar would not.
That's right. And George, it's my understanding that NOAA uses the weather balloons also to help them in forecasting future weather. So the ability to detect certain things that can allow them to make patterns and do the 7-day forecast, for example.
Now that I know how many weather balloons go up every day, it makes more sense that every time there's some sort of UFO, people are like, it's a weather balloon. Well, sounds like there's a lot of them out there. So maybe it is.
There's a lot
Well,
out
you had
there.
mentioned a few, you've mentioned a few really important key details that I want to circle back around to. We have been, again, tracking this balloon situation for a couple of weeks now. And since Tim is so passionate about it, and trust me, I fear even doing this right now, but I'm going to have him give us just a brief, and Tim, I mean brief synopsis. People can tune into our other podcasts to get the whole dish, but a brief synopsis of what has been going on with the balloons so we can circle back to Tom's details about the size of the ones that he launches, the weight, the FAA regulations, etc.
Well, sure, just really brief. And of course, we feel like our listeners kind of know about this already, but we had the spy balloon, right, went over Alaska, Canada, across the continental United States. They say crossed a lot of sensitive military sites. We finally shot it down off the coast of the Carolinas, right? Then over Super Bowl weekend, and by the way, now we're all in arms in an uproar over balloons, and UFOs. And then Super Bowl weekend, right, the most unprecedented, once-in-a-lifetime situation starts happening. We start getting notices that our military is shooting down UFOs. Mind-blowing. Not since 1947. Roswell, New Mexico has headlines like that come out. And literally then in 1947, the headlines were flying saucer shot down. Next day, headlines were, whoops, it was a balloon. So it's really funny how history has repeated itself now, all these years, decades later, 2023. And it started with a UFO over Alaska being shot down over Deadhorse or near Deadhorse, Alaska, and apparently landed onto some frozen ocean. And I can't wait to circle back with Tom later on that because he said so many key details there, which, as far as I know, has not been in the public knowledge with this situation. Okay, the official search for that UFO that was taken down over Alaska, abandoned. Can't find any of the debris. The weather's and the terrain's too difficult. Search is abandoned. Next, we had a UFO taken down over, I believe Canada was next. Okay, there have been no details about that. And by the way, I believe they said that the Alaska balloon was, let's see here, that it was car-sized. Originally is what they said, and I'll circle back with this with Tom later. And then over Canada, shot down, no further information on it. And then we shot down one over Lake Huron. It was described as smaller than the spy balloon. How could it not be? Because that thing was big as 3 school buses. It was octagon shaped with strings hanging off of it. So that search has been abandoned as well for the UFOs shot down over Lake Huron. And I basically feel like the news about the Northern Illinois bottle cap balloon brigade's balloon disappearing over Alaska, that story came out, and the Pentagon has shut it down. No other information, almost as if they want us to believe that, yes, indeed, these were all hobby balloons that were taken out by missile.
So let's dive into that because our F-22s shot down things with very expensive missiles, and we were left to believe that nobody knew at the end of the day what it was. So Tom, dive in a little bit here to this one that was shot down over Alaska and how it connects to this North Illinois
Sure.
bottle cap balloon brigade.
All right. I think the car size is a little bit stretching it here. Our balloons are about 32 inches in diameter, very small cylinders, or spheres, actually. There are some Pico balloons out there that are more spherical shaped. They may be 8 feet long and maybe a couple feet in diameter, look more like a cigar, but not many of those are flying. But, the military or spokesman says they can't find it. The one I'm referring to the Yukon, They say, we're not going to claim it was a party balloon or a hobby balloon until we find it. Well, they're never going to find it, and I can tell you why. And if we were on video night, I was going to show you one of the balloons here. It is made, the material is so thin, we have to be very careful handling it, or it'll get a hole in it. It's 1 mil thick. That's 1/1000th of an inch thick. And the little tracker that we built, and the one flying was a little bit larger, but the tracker we built, again, is postage stamp size. Now, when that rocket exploded up there, it probably vaporized that little balloon. I mean, there's no pieces of that balloon's going to be found. And probably, even if the tracker didn't break apart, you're never going to find a little 1-inch square thing down on the ground somewhere, out in the middle of the water or the snow or something, And so why do we think that it's there? Well, as I said on the show last night, I'm 98% sure it was this ham radio balloon. And, maybe 2% it could have been an alien, I don't know. But I think it was a ham balloon. And the reason was where we were tracking it. And the last track we got, it was on the west coast of Alaska. And it got dark. And see, our Pico balloons don't transmit during the dark because they're solar power only.
Oh.
But they continue on. And when the sun comes up the next day, it starts plotting again, so we can see, where it is. And the NOAA prediction for that flight put it across Alaska and right exactly in the Yukon, right there between the two little cities where the military says they shot down, this unidentified object. And we never heard from it again. So, now it's not unusual for a balloon to just go down by itself or for some reason stop talking, but it's very, very much of a coincidence that it was right in the same area when the missile went off and we hadn't heard from it anymore,
Right.
Do you happen to know how long that balloon had been in the air?
I think the balloon had been up about 60-something days.
Okay.
I think it had been around the world about 6 times. So, I really feel sorry for the kids up there that launched the thing. I mean, this could have got many more revolutions around the Earth, and it was shot down on the 6th trip. It was doing so good.
I know,
But
what a
great
bummer.
story.
I know.
Yeah.
And, we're talking to Tom Medlin, host of the Amateur Radio podcast.
Roundtable.
Amateur Radio Roundtable podcast. You can check that out at w5kub.com. New episodes every Tuesday. And, wow, I'm just not sure what that says. And I'm not sure that inspires much confidence in our intelligence community, right? That we can literally log on to Tom's website and see where all their balloons are. And here we have our Pentagon and our military potentially blasting down a balloon over Alaska, over our airspace. And by the way, here's what I took away from Tom's analysis of the percent odds that it was the balloon versus alien. And my takeaway is, so he's saying there's a chance that it was aliens. I'll take those odds. Thanks. Like, share, follow, comment, subscribe, support. What's your hot take on Travis Taylor?
I've got an exclusive for you guys if you want it about the Alaska.
We do.
Okay.
More at bigfootufo.com.
All things unexplained.
So some of that, I think, sir, we'll save for closed session.